Okay, so if we were meeting live today, we would have started our class with a quiz, which I'm going to send to you the WhatsApp group just now, okay? What I'd like you to do when we finish this class is to do that quiz. It will take you about 45 minutes, okay? Now, the point of this quiz, it's a very, very important quiz, because what I notice with all students, and it's not just this year, it's every year, is that students are tempted only to watch the videos, not read the textbook. The videos and the textbook work together. And sometimes there are parts of the videos or parts of the textbook that are not reflected in the videos. So it's important that you go to the textbook and read those important things in there. Now, the quiz, which I'm going to send you, is set up so that it forces you to read the textbook. You don't have to do it without the textbook. You can open the textbook and find the answers. That's the whole point, okay? So this is not like a test where you have to sit without the textbook and just remember everything. The point behind this is to actually make you engage with the textbook, okay? So it's going to ask you to look for something in the textbook and sometimes to draw it out exactly. Sometimes it's going to ask you to look for certain things that are missing in a sentence. So you need to look for that sentence and do the missing parts. Sometimes it's going to ask you to use a definition that's in the textbook. When you are forced to engage with the textbook like that, it is more likely that you will actually learn from the textbook. Okay. So every couple of weeks, we'll have a quiz like this so that I can test that you actually are engaging with the textbook, because you'll actually learn more if you videos and if you work with the textbook. All right. So I'll send this on WhatsApp now. And then I want you to work on that during today. And you can submit it to me by the end of today. Okay. I would prefer for you to finish English work first. Okay. So if you're still working on your English assignment, I'd prefer for you to finish that first and send it to me, and then you can work on this theory one, okay? And if that means that you can only do the theory one tomorrow, that's fine, or this fundamentals thing. It means that's fine, okay? I want you to spend a lot of time on that English because it's important and it's worth marks going to count towards your final mark. So I want you to prioritize the English, okay? Then when you are finished the English, you start on this, okay? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
now, I've marked, I think I've managed to mark everybody's work for worksheet 8. Worksheet 8 was the introduction to pitch and how we notate pitch on the stave. Now, at the moment, the kind of exercises that we're doing and the work that we're doing on the stave are simply naming notes, writing notes, getting used to how to put notes onto the stave, okay? You'll find that later on as we go through the semester, you'll be able to work with those notes, assign sound to them so that they don't just look like dots on a piece of paper, because that would be useless, okay? There's no point in learning about a musical system or writing a musical system. Sorry, I just need to quickly take this. Hello, Ruth. I'm just in a class at the moment online. Is this about the teaching? Is this about the paying of staff? Yes. 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 Okay, sorry about that. We're dealing with an issue for our staff members, and if we don't get the staff members forms processed today, they won't get paid by the end of the month. So you can see it's just important we're trying to sort out an issue that they're having in the finance department. Sorry about that. Okay, now let's talk about aspects of writing on the stave. It seems that not everybody yet has realized that when you're looking at the 5-note stave, let's just, or 5-line stave, let's imagine that my fingers are all of the lines, okay? You can see all of the 5 fingers there. Each of these, if this is the bottom line, then the second bottom line, the middle line, the second top line, and the top line, okay? In between each of the lines is a space, okay? Those spaces are as important as the lines, okay? Now, if a treble clef in front of 5 lines, the bottom line, if a note is on the bottom line, it is E. Then this one is, can anybody tell me which the second line is on the treble clef?
It's G.
G.
Yes. The third line?
B.
Yes. The fourth line?
B.
D.
D. And the top line?
F.
F. Now, in between each of these, there are also notes. So this is E, then the space is F. So if you've got 2 lines like this, and the note is written inside the space, that note must be the note that is represented there. Sipiwe, can you just mute your microphone for us, please? Thank you. All right, so it's important that it's not just the lines, it's also the spaces. Now, if a note has to be on the line, let's say you're working with a treble clef, okay, and you need to write the note B, which is on the middle line. Then when you write the note must go over the line. It mustn't be next to the line or on top of the line. It must be over the line, complete, so that the note head must come right over the line and go a little bit above it and a little bit below it, okay? Otherwise, it looks like the note is in the space, in which case it would be a different note, okay? So the note head, that round bit of the note, or the rugby ball type of the note, it must sit in the middle of the line if it's for a line, and it must sit in the space when it's for a space. Okay, so it's very important. It must be very accurate. It must be in the middle of the line or in the middle of the space. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
All right, let me just show you an example so that you can see. Just want to open this for you and then I'll share my screen. Sorry, it's just taking a little while to open. All right, and let me show you what I'm seeing here. Just tell me when you can see this so that I can speak to you about it. Can you see it yet?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, we're going to look at these notes here. So do you see the note G here on the bass clef? Do you see how the note goes right through the middle of the line? Okay. Same with the B. The note goes right through the middle of the line. When you are dealing, however, with the spaces, do you see that the note, it touches the line above and it touches the line below, but it doesn't go over the line on either side. Okay? If we look at some other notes, let's just see. Those are semi-breves. Let's have a look at some other notes so that you can see what they would look like. Have a look at this note here. Do you see that it's going right through the middle of the line? It's on the fourth line of the bass clef, which means that it's an F, okay? So do you see how the note head, it must go right through the middle of the line. Here, we've got a note in the space. Then there's one on the line. You see it's going right through the middle of the line. It comes back to the space. Then it's on the line and in the space. Now, what happens when we go above or below the stave? So let's just have a look here. I want to show you another picture here. This is an important picture here. If we look at the 5 lines, you can see that you can write 5 notes, one on each of these lines here. And I've told you that there are 4 spaces. They are the spaces in between each of the lines. But in fact, there are 6 spaces because there's a space below the bottom line and there's a space above the top line. Okay. So we know that the first space here, if we're in the treble clef, let's go and look at the treble clef. Okay, there's the treble clef. The first space is F, right? And the first line, what's the first line? Who can tell me in the treble clef?
E.
E.
Yes. So what would that bottom space be? If there was a note over here, what would that note be?
D.
Yes, correct. D. And here, if you look at the top here, that top space is E. The top line is F. What would the top space here be? Just above
G.
G, correct.
E.
So we can go above or below the stave. And in fact, you will already start from next week learning about notes that go even further than that when we start working on that. Okay. But the most important thing is here, when you are drawing notes, they have to be very accurate. If you're writing a B in the treble clef, the B must be in the middle of the B line. Okay, it mustn't sit on top of it or below it. It must be right in the middle. Okay. Now, are there any questions having received the feedback from me about worksheet 8? Are there any questions that you have or that you'd like to share about the work that you did on worksheet 8? Just put up your hand. Zotani, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't understand about these spaces outside the lines.
The spaces outside the lines.
Yes.
Okay. Just hang on a second. Let me see if I can help you understand that. I just need to share something on the screen. Please just hang on a second. Okay, now I'm going to share something with you so that I can try and explain it better for you. Tell me when you can see the screen.
I can see.
All right. I'm going to add some notes into this. Just hang on a second. Sorry, it just takes a little while to do this because all of the notes I have to do one by one. Just need one at the top here. All right, when we look at here, if I write the note names under each of these things here, so I'm going to write each note name underneath. What's the first note here?
E,
E,
What's the second note?
G,
F,
F, yeah. What's this third note?
G,
G.
G,
Fourth note?
A,
Yes. Next one?
B,
B,
B. Next one?
C,
D. Next one?
E,
D,
E. Next one?
E.
E.
And the last one?
It's F.
So Tane, so far, you with me? You understand what we've done so far?
Yes, 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 I understand, sir.
All right. Now, let's start with this note here. If I add another note up here, let me just add a note here. Sorry, it just takes a little while to do this. Okay. Now, do you see that I've added a note above here? Sorry, I'm just going to move these over a bit. They've all got a little bit displaced. This note over here is F, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if we move one note up, what would make this, what would this note be? What's the next note after
Sorry?
F? If we go to that note, it would be a G. Yes. Okay. If you look at these ones, A, B, C, D, E, F, they're all going one up at a time, right? Up the alphabet. So if we go one note up, then this one must be a G. That's also a space. Do you see that? There's no line going through it. Can you see there's no line?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I mean by the space above the line. Does it make sense?
Yes, 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 it makes
Okay.
sense.
The same thing if I did, let me add a note in here. Just move these here. Right, now we are going a bit backwards, okay? We've got G, we've got F, we've got E. What comes just before E?
It's D.
E.
D.
Yeah, okay. So that's also a space because there's no line going through it. You see that this note here, it's got a line going through it. This one's got a line going through it. That one's got a line. But these ones over here, space, 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 and this one is also a space, even though it's underneath the stave. You with me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
So I understand right now.
Now
So,
you understand.
oh,
Good. Okay. I'm glad that you
yes,
understand
thank
now.
you much.
Okay. Thank you, Sotane. Are there any other questions from other people? Blessing, did you want to ask a question?
no, sir.
Okay, I just saw your mic opening up, so I thought you might be asking. Okay. So the important thing is here that we are all able to identify notes by whether they are in a space or on a line. And when we're in the treble clef, we need to be able to distinguish which lines are which and which spaces are which. And in the bass clef, we need to know that they are different. Now, some of you, when you were in the worksheet, doing the worksheet, sometimes when you were working in the bass clef, when there was a bass clef at the beginning of the line, you were still reading the notes as though they were in the treble clef. It's very important to pay attention to the clef at the beginning of the stave, because that clef gives you the clue as to which notes you are dealing with, okay? So when you are dealing with the bass clef, remember that the rhymes change. Who can remember what the rhymes are for the lines in the bass clef? Paradise?
G, B.
Good.
Yes, good.
Good boy deserve food goodness.
Yes, right. And I can see Paradise saying them, but I couldn't hear you. Sorry, your mic was off. But you were correct, okay? So Tane, you were correct. What is the rhyme for the spaces?
Ace.
All
Yes.
cow eats grass.
All cows eat grass. Correct. Good. Okay. So it's different from the treble clef. You must be very much aware of that. Okay. Right. Now, this week's work was about some quite difficult concepts. If you watch the videos and you read the textbook, you might be beginning to grasp what's happening. The important thing here is the concept of meter. Now, you might be familiar with the word meter as a distance, you know, like it takes 10 meters from here to there, or 10 kilometers, all right? When we use the word meter in music, it has a different meaning. And meter in music means that there is something that keeps coming back, a pattern. In music, it's a rhythmic pattern that keeps coming back. In particular, it is when you are dealing with pulses, and one of those pulses is stronger than the other, but always in the same pattern. So I'll give you an example of that. If I am going, if I'm setting up groups of 3 pulses, let me just give you an example first. Here are some pulses where there is no pattern. They're just regular pulses. Pa, 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 pa. They just keep on going. Now, see if you can work out what the difference is between what I've just done and what I'm going to do now. Pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti. What is the pattern here?
Like the time signature.
Don't tell me the time signature, just tell me what the pattern is. What's happening? Are the pulses in groups of 2 or are they in groups of 3? Listen again. Pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa.
Groups of 2.
2. Listen here. Pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa.
Oh, yeah, 3.
3, 4, 3.
3. Yes, okay. If it was in groups of 2, it would be like this. Pa, ti, pa, ti, pa, ti, pa, ti. If it was in groups
Now I
of
get it.
pa, ti, 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 pa, ti, 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 pa, ti, ti, ti. Now, meter is those groups of pulses always having the same pattern. Okay, that's what meter is. So when you have something like this, pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti, pa, ti, ti. You're setting up a pattern. Okay. Now our brains really like patterns. And our brains really, really like rhythmic patterns. So often in poetry, in poetic texts, poets like to use patterns of meter. How many of you are familiar with a hymn called Liza Liz Indingalako?
I know, sir.
You know it?
I know it. Yes.
Liza
Yes.
Liz Indingalako. Tiko so. You know it?
Yes,
we
sir.
do.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the reason I chose that is because many people know it, but that text is in meter. Okay, it has a metered feel about it. I'll try and demonstrate to you what I mean with the first two lines. Okay, it goes like this. Liza lis indingalako titon ko sienani. So if we look at that text, I'll show it to you now. I just need to share it on the screen. Tell me when you can see it.
You can see it, sir.
Okay. Do you see that I've put in bold some of the syllables? Can you see them in bold?
Yes.
Let me make it a bit bigger just in case you can't see it. I'll put them in red. You can see it even clearer. Oh, sorry, I don't know why it's done that. So these are lis, that's a strong one. La, that's strong. Ngo and ni. Now, let's count the number of syllables in between each of them. Let me show you what I mean here. If we break up the words into their syllables, li, za, lis, in, ga, la. See, I've made them into separate little pieces, right? If we count, sorry, somebody's got their, I'm just going to mute so that we can. Okay, sorry, I just needed to mute you so that we can all hear properly. If we count the number of syllables between the strong beats and including the first one, this is what we get. Here's the first strong beat. Then we've got, that's 1. Then we've got 2, 3, 4. Then the next strong beat comes. 1, 2, 3 is 4. Then we come the next one. 1, si is 2, yen is 3, ya is 4, ni is 1, so is 2, zonk is 3, in is 4, kla is 1, ga is 2, zonk is 3, is 4. The second is 1. Do you see how it keeps on going? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you see that pattern?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So the pattern of beats in these texts is called meter. Okay. And music has meter. Music can be in a number of different types of meters. This year, we are only going to learn about 6 different types of meters, but there are many, many types of meters, okay? Today, let's just talk about the simple meters, 2, 3, and 4. I've already demonstrated them for you, but I will demonstrate them again. This is 2, okay? Ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa, ta, pa. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then you get 3. Ta, pa, pa, ta, pa, pa, ta, pa, pa, ta, pa, pa, ta, pa, pa. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you get 4. Ta, pa, 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 ta, pa, 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 ta, pa, pa, pa. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, a lot of music is based on one of these 3 meters that I've just demonstrated for you. But the important thing about meter is that it underpins the music. It's a bit like the heartbeat of the music, okay? So even if your rhythm that you're actually clapping is not according to the meter, or if it doesn't follow the meter is still there. I'll try and demonstrate what I mean by that. Do you remember that in our first few classes when we were doing the clapping together and I got you to tap with your feet, crotchets, and then clap with your hands, quavers? Do you remember that? So it was like this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. With your foot, I'll try and demonstrate it for you now so that you can hear it. Okay, this is my foot tapping. I don't know if you can hear that. Pa, 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 pa. Ta, 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 ta. Now, the meter underneath is always happening underneath. And when we were clapping some of our examples on Tuesday, when you were putting together groups of notes, do you remember when you got into your groups and you made those rhythms for us to clap? We always set out by counting 1, 2, 3, and then you started clapping. Do you remember that? Now, there's a reason why we always clap 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4 before we start, because it sets up the meter. It sets up the parameters around which you are going to perform the music. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm going to clap something in 3 time. Okay, that's the ba, da, da, di, da, da. Then I count like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Did you see I was counting 3 all the way through? But I was clapping different rhythms with that 3. Okay? The counting of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is the meter of the music. It gives the music shape, or the rhythm shape. The rhythm is what I was clapping with my hands. That was all sorts of things, dotted crotchets and quavers and semiquavers and dotted minims and that kind of thing. But all of those notes fitted within the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 structure. Okay, so meter is like a structure. It's what we put the music onto. It gives the music shape and it gives the music some kind of pattern. All right, and as I said to you before, our brains like patterns. So when we've set up the pattern, our brain will keep the pattern going while we're doing different things at the same time. Okay, so that's how meter works. But we have special ways of writing meter in music using the stave. And that's where those time signatures come in. Time signatures are the numbers where you have one number at the top and one number at the bottom. The important thing to remember here, though, is that time signatures are not fractions, okay? So they don't work the same as fractions. They sometimes look like them, but they are not the same. Who can tell me what the top number of a time signature tells us? What does the top number tell us?
It tells us how many beats are in the bar.
Correct, yes. And what does the bottom number tell us? That's the more difficult one. Who can tell me? Here's a clue. If we know the number of beats at the top, the bottom will tell us what kind of beats we are using. Okay, so and there is there's a special pattern for those. So they're always in even numbers: 2, 4, 8, and 16. 2, 4, 8, and 16. Those are the numbers we use at the bottom. Okay, 4 represents crotchets. So if you see a 4 at the bottom, you know you're dealing with crotchets, right? If you have a 2 at the bottom, you're dealing with minims. If you have an 8 at the bottom, you're dealing with quavers. So let's say you have 3 at the top, 4 at the bottom. The 3 at the top tells you you're dealing with 3 beats. The 4 at the bottom tells you you're dealing with crotchet beats. Okay, that means you've got 3 crotchet beat patterns. Okay, if you have 6 at the top and 8 at the bottom, 6 at the top tells us we've got 6 beats in the pattern, and the bottom tells us that the pattern uses quavers. Okay, so the top tells us what the pattern, the number of the pattern, and the bottom number tells us what note value we are using in that pattern. All right. So if we've got 2, 4, 2 at the top and 4 at the bottom, the 4 at the bottom tells us crotchets. The 2 at the top tells us that the pattern is made up of 2 crotchets. Okay, that would be like this: party, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. If the meter says 3 at the top, 4 at the bottom, the 4 at the bottom tells us crotchets. The 3 at the top tells us 3 crotchets in the pattern. Okay, that would be like this: party, t, party, t, party, t. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If we have 4, 4, the 4 at the bottom says crotchets. The 4 at the top says there are 4 crotchets in the pattern, like this: party, t, t, party, t, t, party, t, t. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, in music, to make these patterns clear to you when you are reading it, we use things called bar lines. At the beginning of the piece of music, you use the number like 3, 4, the time signature, and that tells us what the pattern is. So if you see 3, 4 at the beginning, you know that the pattern is 3 crotchets. And that pattern is going to keep on coming over and over and over and over again like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's just going to keep on going like that through the whole piece of music. But to help your eye see that pattern more clearly, we use bar lines for every time the pattern has finished. So we get 1, 2, 3 bar line, 1, 2, 3 bar line, 1, 2, 3 bar line. Okay? So we put bar lines to indicate every time one of the patterns has completed. Make sense? Let me show you a picture. Right, let's go down here. Right, let's have a look at this pattern over here. Can you see the picture now where it says 4, 4 at the beginning? And then there's crotchets. Okay, so the 4 at the bottom tells us we're dealing with crotchets. The 4 at the top tells us the pattern is 4 crotchets. Okay, there are 4 of them. So here's the first part of the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we finished the first one, so we put a bar line. Now look at the second bar. There's 1 crotchet, 2 quavers, 1 crotchet, 2 quavers. Remember, 2 quavers is also equal to 1 crotchet. So we put 1 crotchet, 1 crotchet, 1 crotchet, 4 crotchets. So we finished the pattern, we put a bar line. Then we've got a crotchet, 4 semiquavers. Remember, you can get 4 semiquavers in 1 crotchet. So this is also equal to 1 crotchet. Another crotchet, then 4 semiquavers is equal to 1 crotchet. 1, 2, 3, 4. We finished the pattern, so we put a bar line. Then a dotted minim is equal to how much? Who can tell me?
3 beats.
3 beats. So that's 3, and this one here is equal to 1. 3 plus 1 is equal to 4. That's a complete one, so we put the bar line. Do you see how it's working?
Yes, sir.
Good. And if we look at this bar over here, how much is a minim worth?
2 beats.
2. Yes, so we've got 2 plus 2 is equal to 4.
4 crochets.
We put the bar line. Okay, how much is a dotted crotchet worth?
1
1.5. Okay,
1.5.
1.5. How much is a quaver equal to?
1.5.
Are you sure? A quaver?
It's a half.
A half, yes.
Supposed to
So we've got
have,
1.5 plus a half is equal to 2 so far. Plus 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. The pattern is finished. We put a bar line. Okay? So that's how meter works. It's showing us where the pattern is and how the pattern works. All right. I see there's something in the chat. Let me see. Oh, groups of 3. That was from earlier on. Has anybody got a question so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Basically, a meter is not different to a metronome.
Yes, in a sense, it's like a metronome. A metronome, the only difference is that a real metronome, one that's a mechanical one, that's the one that ticks like this, it doesn't actually give you the meter. It just gives you the pulses. It doesn't give one meter as stronger than the others. Meter, one of the pulses is always stronger than the others. So that's how it gets to the pattern, okay? Without a pattern, you just get equal beats all the way through like this. Pa, 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 pa. We can't tell if this is 2 or 3 or 4. They're just a continuous stream. That's a metronome. Meter, on the other hand, is where one of those pulses is always stronger and it creates a pattern like this. Pa, 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 pa. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the difference between a metronome beat and meter. The metronome ones, they're all equal, and you can't hear if there is a pattern. They just keep on going in a long stream. Meter, one of those pulses is stronger than the other, and then it gives us a pattern. Does that make sense, Ibuyile?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. You can metronomes on your cell phone if you download a metronome app, where it will do the meter for you. So you can put in 4/4 time, and then it'll go ba da 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 ba da da da. But that is not normally what well, that's not what a metronome used to do. A metronome used to just produce equal sounds. Okay. But that gives you the formal definition. Does everybody know what a metronome is? Who can tell us what a metronome is? I'll write it up in the chat and see if you can look it up online to see what it is, okay? Sometimes, okay, let me just show you something here. Just tell me when you can see the online page. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me show you a picture of a metronome. That's what a metronome looks like. It's a bit like a clock. It just goes tick, 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 tick. It gives you the speed of music. Let me show you here. Here's a metronome app. If I press play, can you hear the tick?
Yes.
That's 100 beats per minute, okay? But I can make it slower. Let's just pause this quickly, and I'll make it much slower. Let's make it 60 beats per minute. 70, 60. Now listen to it. See? Much slower. Or I can make it much faster. Let's make it 160 beats per minute. Can you hear it? Do you see that those tick, 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 ticks, not any of them are louder than the others? That's what a metronome usually does. If we add meter to that, one of those clicks would always be louder in the pattern. Okay. Do you remember the other day I was talking about rock music usually is at 160 beats per minute? Okay, and that if you listen to it for long enough, your heartbeat goes up to that. Do you remember that? You're all quiet now. Maybe you don't remember. Okay, listen to how fast this is. This is 160 beats per minute. Now, if you get your heart to go that fast, it means that you're exercising quite vigorously, okay? So imagine if you're listening to music and your brain gradually builds up your heartbeat to that speed. It means that your body is already working very, very hard to get to that space. That's why if you are sensitive to rhythm and your heart begins to speed up with it, you can imagine that you start to get excited as well. So that's why music that has a very fast beat can make you excited or tense or full of energy. Okay, just like if you were exercising. All right, if you want to find this app, all you need to write into Google is metronome. and then you'll be able to see this and experiment with it. But you can also get these apps on your cell phone. All right. So that's in a nutshell what our class, or what all of the videos and what the textbook are about this week. Okay. What you'll need to do is to go back to the textbook and read it carefully to make sure that you understand all of these things so that you can do the worksheets. What I'm going to do is to send you now the quiz so that you can start working on that. Remember, please first finish your English work. I'm looking for very high quality English work here. When you've finished your English work, then work on the quiz and send it to me. Okay? So first do your English, then your quiz. All right. Now I'm going to stop recording, but I am not stopping the class yet.